Oh, hey,
All right.
woof.
Well, we're trying to get the woof
Woof.
woof on YouTube here. Give me 1 second. I gotta click the button.
But we are live on Facebook now, so that's good.
Okay, now
Sorry.
YouTube says we're live.
Okay.
Space.
All right. Welcome to the 034 Motorsport Live Chat, episode 121. And we are here to answer all your hot burning questions about all things 034. Anything you'd like to know in general, feel free to ask. Anything you'd like to know from Nate and I, anything about 034 products, services, our philosophy. You love us, you hate us, you want something from us. We're backing off the updates, as many updates as we've done in the past, just because there's not always a good answer. So we just end up kind of setting expectations that aren't helpful. All right, looks like we have questions dropping in. Someone asked, how was SEMA? Since we're talking about that. It was good. It was definitely a super spreader event.
By far, yeah. It's shocking.
I would say every single person from 034 that went came back with a cold of some kind. And there are a number of confirmed COVID cases as well that we are managing. Other than that, it was a very busy, packed year. I don't know if it was quite 2019 levels, but
I was thinking it was about 3/4 of it.
I would say it was a proper busy SEMA compared to last year, which was a ghost town. There was a lot more booths, a lot more vendors and exhibitors, and then the visitors were prolific as well. So it was to the point where during the day it was hard to walk around, stuff like that. But I don't really go look at the cars and stuff anymore. I understand there were like lots of trucks, bulldozers, and things like that. Huh?
A few donks are good.
Some donks.
Some donks. There's cars. There's cars there. I'm there for the relationships and the business opportunity. I don't know, but it's always a good team building time too, to just go hang out with coworkers and get shit faced, and then try to function the next morning.
Work on it.
There was definitely some of that going on. I went clubbing one night, which was really fun.
Hey,
Yeah.
I went to bed early one night. There was by early, I mean midnight.
Well, midnight's early. Usually it's like 3 in the morning.
Yeah,
It's like
I think closing out McDonald's.
probably get like 3 hours of sleep before I get 0. But anyways, the 034 MP booth, the Euro Motor Parts Group booth was busy. Lots of visitors. A lot of you came out and said hi. Thank you. The Humble Mechanic Golf R reveal, I would say, was very successful. There was quite a few people there, and I think that's shared on our Instagram if you'd like to see it as well. So yeah, that's SEMA. If you have any specific questions, let us know. Let's jump into some questions. Any plans for non-crackle versions of the B9 3.0 T tuning getting older in life and don't care for all the pops and bangs?
I believe we've gone over this. You can set that in your basically personalized mode. I can't remember the exact term. The individual. Where you can turn off the sound features from the engine, and that will get rid of that. So you'll have all the dynamic shifting and whatnot without the crackle overrun, because that is just a factory feature that we're implementing.
Yeah. Someone's asking, well, will you have mobile flashing to combat IE's recent announcements? Okay, so just to be clear, IE did make some kind of announcement, but I don't believe they've released it. And
I don't know.
I think it was just like on an iPad at SEMA.
Yeah.
But it could have just been like a GIF. I don't know. I'm not saying it was, but I don't believe that they have released it yet. So it's something that we're all working on.
Yep.
We're all doing. Certainly, if they get it working and released at some point, then that will increase our urgency to do it as well.
But I mean, we've talked about this before too. We have been working on this and planning on this for quite some time. All of our cables have radios already for this. They have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi on board.
Yeah.
All of our flashing infrastructure is designed with this in place. So it's not gonna it's already in the works.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like we're like, oh my gosh, like
No.
iOS is a thing. We should do
We're
this.
working on it.
We've known about this. We're working our way towards it.
So for reference, they're saying they're going to release it in Q1 of next year.
Yeah.
That's only for some.
For some platforms. So Q1 starts in a month and a half. So best case scenario, if they release it on January 1st, it's still a month and a half out. But realistically, when someone says Q1, you're talking about there's 4 periods in a year. That's a pretty coarse delivery date. So it could very well go out further. But like Nate said, we've been working on it.
Yeah.
And we will release it.
We're in a very good place with our infrastructure right now to deploy mobile apps. So
the good news is, with a cheap, simple laptop, you can easily flash your car.
Yep.
With Arcade. So I think our perspective has been that would be nice to have, but it doesn't.
Yeah, and it's
we've always wanted to put more effort into the tuning and calibration.
Yep, it's one of those things. Also, there's just so many things you have to consider when doing this that there's a lot more room for error when people get up and walk away from their car while it's flashing and your phone's what's trying to flash it. That's a thing you have to consider. So lots more human element you have to play around.
Can we expect any more development on the software end for the B8.5 platform?
B8.5, yes, we have some more stuff coming to complement some other things we're working on. That'll be a thing. So there will be some updates as well in there, just some calibration tweaks we've made over the past year and a half.
So I think we should
can
tease
sure.
Let's tease it. I'm not going to say anything specific, but we at 034, you heard it here first. We will be releasing a hardware modification for the 3.0T supercharged motor that on a relatively mild stage 2, 2 plus.
A 2 plus. So yeah,
2 plus.
2 plus stock.
So no ported blower,
stock blowers,
super duper
stock cats, stock. Just all the basic supporting mods for a normal 2 plus. So
2 plus with stock cats. This hardware modification generated another 30 wheel horsepower gain. So that's huge. At this point, for the 3.0T supercharged, there's really nothing you can do to get like 30 horsepower with a relatively simple modification.
Yep.
And we're talking about 30 wheel, so maybe like 40, 45 crank horsepower.
And weather conditions were like within a couple degrees difference on the days they were dynoed. All of the other factors we could control were as tight as we can control.
So we hope to be releasing this in Q2 of 2023. But we have a car here running with all the parts on it, and it's exciting. So we will there will likely be some tuning versions to support that hardware modification as well. So very
optimized for it for sure.
So the idea here is with a ported blower with a big throttle body with test pipes or high flow cats, the power gains could even be quite a bit higher.
Yes.
So
we're going through some other iterations now.
That's exciting. Wow, this is your competitor did a thing day. APR released a suspension control arm upgrade for MQB. Will 034 release one? Yes, we've been talking about this throughout the year. We will be releasing an RCO lower control arm, which will be a forged aluminum lower control arm for MQB applications that have steel arms. And this control arm will allow additional camber and caster modifications.
It's been on the development list for a long time.
In fact, it's in final production. We should be releasing it quite soon. And the price is also really reasonable, especially compared to some of the other stuff out there. What's the difference between your two B9 S4 sway bar kits? And then so we offer two kits. One is just a rear bar, which increases the rear roll stiffness of the vehicle. And then we offer a Dynamic Plus sway bar package, which offers a uprated rear bar and a bigger front bar. So the idea here is the rear bar only will make the car much more lively or prone to oversteer. It won't make it an oversteer monster, but by keeping the front sway bar stock stiffness and only increasing the rear, you shift the dynamic driving towards more a lively loose end. So this is a great way to substantially reduce the push or understeer in the car and make the car handle much more with much more oversteer, not spinning out, but with oversteer, meaning that when you turn, the rear turns even sharper than what the steering wheel input would suggest. It's not going to reduce body roll as much as the Dynamic Plus kit, but it will again make the car more live. The Dynamic Plus sway bar package will increase the front and rear stiffness, and it will make the car push less than stock, but it won't be as lively as the rear only upgrade. And you'll find the best or biggest reduction in body roll with the 2 sway bar kit. I would recommend the 2 sway bar kit for anyone who's not really pushing their car to the limit or sliding the car or getting into car control. So your tires aren't ever doing anything more than maybe screeching or squealing here and there. But you're mostly interested in driving the car well within its limits and having a smoother, tighter driving experience. I would say if you're into car control, if you're an experienced track driver, and you want to go into the corner with the rear end hanging out a little bit as you go through the corner, then the rear bar kit is for you. We do not currently sell the front bar by itself. There would be there's no situation where you just want to increase the front bar only. That would just make the car push.
Yeah, that's pretty far outside of our engineering ethos in these cars.
So if you somehow have a situation where you have our rear bar and you need the front, or you bought the front and you lost it, or you were in an accident and you only want to buy the front bar, then definitely contact our customer service. We will accommodate that. That would be like an out-of-process type subcomponent sale that we could do for you. But we do not retail the front sway bar by itself. Would my car bog if I put my pulley on without a tune yet? Well, bogging's not the right.
It's not going to bog. It's going to target a certain amount of boost. We're talking B8, 8.5, 3.0 supercharged motor. So yeah, your tune's going to target a certain amount of boost. It's going to bleed off the excess
until it can't.
Until it can't. Well, yeah, I don't think it ever
is that at that
point.
But if it can't, then it will throw.
You'll get a fault. You will. I mean, depending on how big of a pulley setup you're talking here, though, you can also get a code for that because. Right. It's so far outside of its expected correlation to throttle plate, your 2 throttle plate positions and how much boost it's making. But usually, if it's if you just put like an upper pulley on or a stage 2 pulley configuration on, it'll run totally normal. You won't even notice.
Mm-hmm. Happy to hear the B8.5 isn't dead. When can I see all the updates? Where can I see all the updates to make sure I'm up to date? So if you flash through a dealer or something like that, you're going to want to come to our website and sign up for our mailing list.
No, we'll also we have, as long as the dealer entered your email, they should have through the flash. We have that.
I guess if you already get emails from us about B8 products releases, then you would get this. So the other thing would be to follow our social media, watch this every week. But I'd say following our like Instagram or Facebook page, you're going to see those updates as well.
Right.
But email would be the best way to do that.
Yeah. But yeah, if you're flashed to the dealer and your dealer took your information and entered it into the Flash portal, then we'll certainly be firing off emails through that as well.
Will my car pass emissions on stage 1? All right. So before we attempt to answer that, there are states that a stage 1 car with factory cats would pass the factory or the state's emissions tests. It's going to depend on how strict the emission test is. In general, the stage 1 flash does not change the emissions, tailpipe emissions, substantively.
No, not in any way that would affect anything
because
emissions test.
Because at idle and at low load conditions, where most of the emissions testing is done, it's factory programming anyways.
Yep.
And then the factory cats are doing a really good job of cleaning up anything that comes out of the engine. So as long as you have a factory cat and check engine light, it's safe to say that your car would pass an emissions test or a tailpipe emissions test or an OBD scan. That doesn't mean that our stage 1 file is emissions legal, and it doesn't mean that you would legally be passing the test or whatever. So we're not here to say that. Now, the good news is we do have a CARB exempt, EPA exempt file for the B8, and it's available. If you run that car, yes, you will pass every emissions test in the U.S., including in California, because CARB has determined that it is exempt from any type of law breaking.
Yeah. Well, B8 and MQB 2 liters
Yep.
and all, basically all the 2 liters going back to Mark 5. We're going to be rolling those up, but we have exempt.
Yeah.
We have a CARB exempt, status for all those stage 1 files on 91.
But again, this is not a legal statement. This is a practical, call it an engineering statement, that any one of our stage 1 tunes with a factory cat has virtually unchanged emissions, at the tailpipe.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily smog legal or smog, CARB exempt.
Right.
There's really no such thing as smog legal anyways. The only thing that's smog legal is factory stuff. Everything else is exempt from.
Well, even the factory
enforcement.
stuff. Well, the factory stuff is an executive order.
Yeah.
So it's all. I mean, we're basically getting the same thing as an.
But it's legal.
It's
It's those cars sold as they are legally approved. And if you have a factory stock car, the EPA or CARB would not even question it.
Right.
But yes, where you get into trouble is on stage 2 tunes, which start modifying the factory cats.
Depends on the car stage and the nomenclature. Stage 2 on a B8 is.
It doesn't. What I said is true.
Stage 2 on a B8 is pulley only though.
No, I know. But what I said is true. I said stage 2 cars that modify the factory cats.
Yep.
That's what I said. And let's not confuse it. So not all stage 2 files have that issue, like Nate says. But any tune that modifies the factory cat is now no longer going to pass emissions. Very, very unlikely will pass emissions. Although I have heard of in some states, high flow cats passing tailpipe emissions. But those are not in California.
Yeah, we're not going to assume that.
No. Just for the one person that's like, well, an Alabama. Does your B9 S4 ECU tune remove or alter the fake in-cabin engine sounds?
Wow. That's the sound actuator. No, that is independent from the ECU. That basically sits on the network and listens to some inputs like pedal position, driving mode, RPM, load, and plays things through a structure-born speaker to make your car sound more car-like. No, that is a separate component from the ECU, so you would need to. You can turn that up, down, or sideways through some OBD tools.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking to go stage 2 with your supercharger pulley with ECU and TCU. Should I purchase it all through yourselves or go to AwesomeGTI in Manchester, England, to get your tunes? It's up to you. We would strongly encourage you to use GTI, AwesomeGTI. They're great guys. They are our UK dealer. So they're our master dealer in the UK. They handle the whole UK market for us. We do still deal with the UK market directly as well. So if you would like to come direct to us, feel free or use them. I think if you're looking for a shop to support you, by far the right choice is AwesomeGTI.
Yeah.
If you're really handy and you just want to do it all yourselves, we are an option, but I'm not encouraging you to go direct with us. Just do whatever works best for you. At some point, it's likely that we will stop shipping to the UK and all UK customers will deal with us. So that's something we're talking to them about doing. But for the time being, whatever works best for you, we're here to help. In one of your videos, you mentioned Stage 2 Plus pulley tune requires a 3.0 PR or higher.
No.
Would I be able to run Stage 2 Plus with a 190 mil crank pulley and the OEM supercharger pulley?
Yes. No, we do not require. We do not state that anywhere. I mean, we talk about running fairly moderate pulley ratios compared to the internet's preference of railing your map sensors and spinning these superchargers to the end of the earth. No, 190 mil is that's getting you into 2+ territory. I think maybe what we mentioned is that sometimes you can get away with a 190 for the stage 2 file. It's going to depend on your specific setup and what your actual, boost getting into the, getting to the map sensors is, depending on intake, altitude, that kind of thing. Some guys can run a 190 mil pulley and still be on the stage 2 software without any limitations. But no, if you want to be safe, 2+, work totally fine with a 190 mil.
Let's see. Let's talk. Someone's asking what's in the box. I really want to do like a Brad Pitt crawling impression. So this is exciting. Something we've been talking about for a while. For all you people that think that we talk about products but never release them, in your face. This is our B9 3.0T and 2.9T TFSI high pressure fuel pump piston upgrade kit. When you open the box, you will see a fuel pump piston upgrade inside here. So this is the kind of retainer, kind of like what you'd have on a valve spring retainer. And this is the actual pump here. Not a lot to look at, but there is 2 separate pieces here. So a housing and the actual piston itself. So the way this works is by swapping out the housing, you can put a bigger piston inside. A bigger piston has a bigger surface area, which means it can pump more fuel. So we advertise this as a 37% flow increase.
I'm actually looking at it right now. I think that's about 37.
Other than that, this isn't a super exciting product. It just needs to flow 37% more than the factory one and never fail or get up.
And by fail, I mean the tolerances on these things is like micron level.
It is
with diamond coating.
So there's just a handful of manufacturers in the world that can make something like this, and then there are some like aerospace proprietary coatings on the parts as well. So you can see this piston. I don't know if you can see it. The piston is black in color. And there's this really special coating. The tolerances on this are in the 10,000ths of an inch.
Yeah, that's not a cosmetic coating. That is a functional.
So that means you can't just have like Joe Schmuckatelli's machine shop, whip some of these up for you. I'm not aware of anyone in the U.S. that manufactures this product. Although there's lots of really high tolerance aerospace stuff going on in the U.S.
It's a pretty special.
So between the surface finish, the tolerances, and the coatings, it's an extremely difficult, expensive product to make. Now, one of our well-known competitors for the past year has been plagued with quality issues. They're experiencing basically a 100% failure rate. You put it in, and it starts having issues almost immediately. So the engineering, the manufacturing, the testing. So we regularly test production units as they come in and shipped to us. But as far as it being made correctly and the testing, nothing to worry about there. So why did we make or release this? This allows additional fuel capacity or fuel output from the high pressure fuel pump and on these 2.9T and 3.0 motors, which unleashes additional horsepower potential. So we have stage 1 plus and 2 plus files, which take advantage of this. And then our stage 3 files also require a high pressure fuel pump upgrade. In the past, I know we've had customers using APR and some other options out there. Hopefully no one needs to ever do that again. And we have these in stock, ready to ship, and a good supply. We've invested well into the 6 figures to bring this product to market. It's not a cheap, easy product to do. And we have a lot of inventory to support it as well. So on the stage 1 plus 2 plus files, the reason it's an upgrade is the factory fuel pump is driven by the camshaft. And so the fuel pump flow curve for the high pressure fuel pump is closely linked to the camshaft speed. So at lower RPMs, the high pressure fuel pump flows quite a bit less than it does at higher RPMs. The problem that's presented here is that the torque peak in these motors is in the 3,000 RPM range. And so at a point in the power band where the fuel demand is highest, the factory fuel pump flows less than the potential of the engine to make power.
It's very linked basically to the VE curve of the motor because obviously your amount of air you're breathing is linked to RPM. So the amount of fuel you're delivering is completely linked to RPM needs.
And the torque peak is always at the volumetric efficiency peak of the motor, which is why the motor cruises the most torque there. So by installing this pump, we increase the fuel capacity, and so we're able to create additional torque and horsepower through the mid-range of the power band. It's not a lot of power. If you look at the quoted numbers for 1 Plus and 2 Plus, they're not huge numbers, but they are nice gains across relatively broad, 1,000, 1,500 RPM band. And so the area on the curve is quite big, and the increase while you're accelerating is substantial. So you get a higher rate of acceleration through basically half the power band. And that's even 10, 15 horsepower is enough to make quite a big difference in acceleration there. So we sell our 1 Plus and 2 Plus files for $50. It's a $50 upgrade, and then you need this pump. So if you're currently stage 1 or stage 2, and you'd like to go, and this is on the B9 3.0T, and you like to go 1 Plus, 2 Plus, you'll just need to buy this pump and do the upgrade flash, and you'll unlock that extra power. It's free power. It's just sitting there waiting. It's in the turbo, and this fuel pump unlocks it. So we also came to market at a very affordable price. I think some of the other options are like $1,000 out there, which include a whole new pump housing. This is quite easy to service. We sell a very nice, affordable tool to go with it. It makes this a DIY project. I don't recommend having too many beers when you do this.
Maybe don't drop it.
Maybe just
you install things correctly.
Don't drop it. Maybe just one Michelob Ultra. Kind of at the beginning.
Work in a clean, like this is like we said, these are very high precision parts. So you want to work in a way that you're not contaminating or grinding stuff.
Low dust, certainly no sand or grit or metal shavings, things like that. So if you need to put down a nice clean towel, sometimes what I do is I'll buy some cookie sheets. You can buy aluminum cookie sheets for $10. You can throw those in the dishwasher and make sure they're nice and clean. And then you could do your work on those.
And I mean, we're not talking like you need a lab grade stuff here. This is just any practice inside. You're doing anything internal to the motor. Once those, once you're working on, bearing surfaces or, seal surfaces that are
just not your dirty workbench, with dirt and, metal shaving and stuff like that.
Yep.
So, what else? These are flying off the shelf right now.
Some are asking if when more B9.5 files will be up. We're getting those up imminently. So, we're filling those in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and safe to say if they're in need of something, shoot us.
Always, hit up tuning at. And in the interim, of course, this can be installed before you do the flash update. There's no problem running. You can
put this in a stock car.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because there's a fuel pump bypass that controls it.
It's all closed loop controlled by the ECU, and I've yet to ever see an issue where we've put one of these pumps in one of these motors and had an issue.
If you place your order today, these will be shipping by Friday. And in reality, we're probably going to ship a little sooner than that, but we're quoting Friday. We're just processing the production pieces that we have here and doing some final testing to make sure everything's 110% before anything ships. But we anticipate finalizing that by Wednesday, and we should be shipping by Wednesday, Thursday, but Friday at the latest. Let's see. Any other questions related to this? Comes with this nice box.
There's this one.
Will there be different files to differentiate high pressure fuel pump or not. Example, stage 1 E85, what they're with that.
That'll be the 1 plus or 2 plus files. The plus will indicate the pump, and it'll be listed in the, you'll see it both in the flashing portal and online, the requirements, the mod requirements for each file, and the high pressure pump will be one of those.
And this is the same for our B9 2.9T RS5 files. We have a 1 plus file.
Yeah.
Currently it's free, but we are going to start charging $50 for that. So
Yep, same as the others.
you may want to jump on that now if you haven't. But the additional power on the 2.9T 1 plus is impressive. We are not doing a stage 2 for the 2.9T as we've discussed. We just did not see any power gains with aftermarket racing cats on that application. So why release a file if there's no benefit? Okay, the factory cats in the 2.9T, there's 2 separate cats, and they flow quite a bit. They flow as much as the stock turbos could ever produce on stage 1. Okay. All right. Feel free to follow up with any additional questions on these babies, but they are for sale, and they are selling. All right. Can you clarify on the horsepower torque gain from adding the air duct and lower box replacement if you installed your X34 intake for the 2018 RS3?
That's a tough one. We when you compare intakes and minute changes like that, you're measuring not necessarily, well, horsepower is a factor of it, but it's generally going to be in pressure and efficiency. So the ECU is requesting a certain amount of airflow for a certain amount of torque. So what you need to look at then is how is it getting that much airflow? What is your wastegate duty cycle? What is basically your charge air temperatures at the end of things? Because that's the more you have to work the turbo, the higher your air temps are going to be. So it's about making that power efficiently and supporting a certain amount of, power. So if you're out of turbo, your turbo's maxed out because it's being restricted by the airbox, then you'll basically be unlocking more potential by upgrading that lower part of the airbox. So, and the tune has to also account for it. So, this intake mods are always a tough one to explain.
Yeah, it's not necessarily that you swap in the lower airbox and shroud and you're going to gain X% power. That is a higher flowing assembly than the stage 1 version that uses the lower airbox in the factory fresh air duct. But there's a bigger cross sectional area where the air duct goes into the lower airbox, and it's just a higher flowing setup. So we did that when we did the 4-inch tube, and this is kind of designed for customers running big hybrids or full frame setups. I don't think on the stock turbo you're gonna benefit from it unless you just want to know that you have the best flowing setup possible. But if you're full frame or you're tiles 700 TT 700 or a tile one of the tile upgrades, then there is the additional flow area, unshrouded flow area to make more power with. The new ignition coils look great, but what happens to 034 yellow? We chose to hold off on the yellow. The feedback that we got was that red was going to be the most popular. And so instead of delaying things for red and yellow, we just came to market with red. The coils are very popular. We are already moving to produce the yellow ones, and those hopefully sometime early next year we'll have the yellow ones as well. But if you like the yellow, I appreciate that. We definitely want to support you. I think we'll just end up with red and yellow. All right. Is there any difference between the CWA 100 coolant pump and the 150? I think it's 50 bigger.
Well, there's a couple of different things I've seen. I have not tested the 150 in particular, but from what I've been hearing, it does have the correct, basically PWM feedback that the ECU expects, so you don't get a fault code for it as well. It does flow a bunch more at lower head pressures, but it also apparently clears up the fuel pump or the coolant pump fault code that you'll get for the 100. But as far as performance and what that means, I haven't, again, not tested it to know if it means anything. It is a good chunk bigger, so you're going to have to make sure it fits in your spot there. But yeah, I haven't tested it personally.
Will you be offering a tune plus turbo combination for stage 3 on B9s? Yes. We will offer full turbo kits with hardware, turbos, gaskets, tuning, high pressure fuel pumps, everything you need. We are putting those together. We've been waiting for these high pressure fuel. We really couldn't offer a package without our own high pressure fuel pump. And then we're also waiting on the super duper inlets, which will kind of complete that. So once the super duper inlets are released, we can build out these turbo kits for all the 2.9T and 3.9T B9 stuff. If you'd like to wait, not a bad idea. Or you can piece stuff together now. But we're not that far off. The super duper inlet is any day now. Okay. This is an interesting question. On a Mk7 GTI, what would cause the turbo to pass oil into the intake tract? This is a complicated question with lots of different variables. One, the first thing I would ask is, how do you know the oil is coming from the turbo? There's lots of ways that oil can get into the intake tract, typically from the crankcase breather system, PCV system. So I would work to ensure that that's not your issue. That can be addressed or solved with a catch can. We have a whole line of catch cans for Mk7 GTIs, and that would prevent the oil from going directly into your crankcase and directly into your intake from the crankcase, and it would go into a catch can first. But let's just say, for the sake of discussion, that what you're saying is true, that this oil is coming from the turbo. The number one way I would say is that you have pressurized your crankcase somehow. And so oil is no longer able to drain out of the turbo. In fact, even if you have light pressure inside your crankcase, even if you have 0.2 psi inside your crankcase, which is less than the amount of pressure you could generate with your mouth, that oil is no longer going to drain out of the turbo. So you have a situation now where oil is going into the turbo to lubricate the bearings, and it just starts piling up or building up a reservoir inside the turbo center section. Just like a motor isn't designed to be filled with oil, a turbo isn't either. So there are seals on the turbo that prevent oil from splashing and going up around seals. But those seals are not designed to seal from like a submerged center section. So once the center of your turbo fills up with oil, that oil is going to start leaking past the seals on the turbine side and the intake. Sometimes maybe it just does the intake first. That's probably the number one thing. A less likely scenario is that your turbo is damaged and you have damaged one of the seals on the turbo. So in normal use with normal oil drainage and evacuation from the turbo, oil is now going past the seals into the intake. And then it's just like you just have a bad turbo at that point. All kinds of stuff starts leaking, or the bearing is loose, and so because of the extra play, it's just oil's just going around the seal because the seal's not designed to stop the shaft from. You think of anything else real quick?
No, I think that's the two I was thinking of too. I mean, I have seen instances where the oil drain has been compromised on turbo, like mechanically, like a CV joint smashes it or something like that, and you can, again, it just turns into a pool of oil in the center section.
Same issue.
Same issue, different cause.
There's one other thing that I've seen is, this wouldn't apply, but on aftermarket setups, if you have, like, this used to be an issue on Garrett GT turbos, that they only want to see like 50 psi, but the engine is producing like 90 psi. So there's just too much pressure, and this excessive pressure would cause oil to leak past the seals. So you put a restrictor in and you limit the pressure. This wouldn't be, again, not an issue on a factory turbo application. Volkswagen already figured all that shit out. But in an aftermarket setup, that would be the first thing I would look at. But you need a restrictor.
Back to your original point, it's almost always the evap,
the
recirculation system is the source of the oil.
Yeah. Now these MQB turbos did have lots of issues, but usually they just
The shaft.
the shaft.
breaks, yeah, you wouldn't get like there'd be no symptoms beforehand. You'd be having a great day, and then you'd be having a terrible.
Which would cause oil to go into
You'd get lots of oil in the tick tire. And a turbo.
Let's see. TT810 would love to hear more about the option to add upgraded fuel injectors. Will the stage 3 file be available for the B9.5 on the same day B9 is available? Okay, well let's do the injector question.
Yep.
We will release the tune with bigger injectors if they're needed. There's nothing magical about bigger injectors. Like if you put bigger injectors in a tuning application that doesn't need it, you don't make any. All right, so the engine requires X amount of fuel, and if you can get that from smaller injectors, you're going to make the same power as you would with bigger injectors. So the injectors are more of they're just a consequence of the power being produced. And for us, we're targeting the optimal peak power that can be generated by the turbo and the engine. And whatever map sensor, whatever injectors, whatever spark plugs we need to make that power, we will utilize. But our goal is always going to be to use the least amount of modifications to hit that optimal power. I don't believe our competitors have necessarily done that, some of them, but that's our goal. So if you need injectors, we'll let you know, and then you should get them. But I don't think it's anything anyone needs to worry about right now, because it's a consequence of the power being produced, and it'll just be one of those warnings.
Yep.
But it won't necessarily say anything good or bad about the tune. The power produced and the tuning calibrations and the results we're getting are what we're driving towards. As far as when B9 will be available on the same B9.5, we can't say yet. We'll announce more.
Yeah, that's going to depend on just our porting workload and how quickly we're trying to get this to market. For these, we've also talked about a couple of different release strategies for some of these more niche turbo setups. But yep.
Can I use 91 octane to mix E40?
Absolutely. That's what I use in all of our calibration.
Just don't use 87.
Don't use anything less than 91.
Yeah.
I mean, use what the minimum the vehicle recommends, and then mix with E85 from there.
I think we
And do get a gauge of some sort so that you know what your actual mixture is, because the ethanol blend and actual percentage is that does vary from pump to pump, and you know. We found more, I think, brand to brand or region to region has been the variance.
B8.5 S5, what would you suggest in terms of maintenance after I go stage 2? I mean, I would say feel free to accelerate your intervals, some amounts, maybe by 25% or something like that. It can't hurt, right?
I think, do we have a clip out of our recommended list? Okay, yeah. If you look on our Uncut YouTube channel, we get this question a lot on the B8.5s, and there are a number of things you do want to make sure are up to snuff, and you actually know what the previous maintenance interval is. We get a lot of these cars are getting into multiple owners now. You may not know the full history. So if you're 80, 100,000 mile car, you don't know if, like, for example, the injectors have ever been checked or replaced. That's something we'll just tell you, it's probably a good idea just to get those done, so you've got some knowledge about the upcoming maintenance and where the health of the motor is at, because those have been a problem in these cars. Intercooler bricks can be an issue. Those are kind of they work or they don't thing. Some leaks, some.
Yeah, for B8, was that
B8.5.
That was B8.5.
That's right. Yep. So trying to go with the other ones that we talked about. They're kind of light. I mean, just make sure ignition.
Cats, intercoolers.
Cats notoriously fail stock on those cars.
Injector, PCV.
Yeah, injector, and then PCV is that's
Make sure everything's full black.
yeah.
You'll probably have to change your shorts more often.
Yeah.
That's a common feedback we get.
Yep. Fires.
But yeah, I'd say for oil and stuff like that, just a little bit more often.
Err on the side of the more frequent updates or refreshes.
did we? Does anyone have any questions about ignition coils? I know that was kind of
That was
controversial.
hot and heavy last week.
Did we release the clip outs
I posted it
today?
Nothing yet.
Okay. If anyone who's watching still has any concerns, one of our customers purchased a set for his DAZA. I gotta send you guys this. His feedback was like ridiculously good, and he said his engine, all the stuff that we really said won't happen.
Well,
He says he
but
feels like it did.
That's one of those things.
It runs smoother. He felt like he had some hesitation issues that were addressed. It could be that some of his coils were like on their way out, you know, and some nice brand new high current coils helped the situation. But for him, he was like a little bit on the fence initially, and he's like, it's one of the best modifications he's ever done.
Yeah, if you're on the margins of the stock coils and they're just lighting the thing off, you will notice a difference with.
And that has been our message.
And if you're one of those guys, the DAZA market's probably a good example where you're basically exceeding what the stock coil can do, and the charge that it can light off, you're gonna notice a big difference with these. So yeah, that's great.
So I don't know. I don't know. I guess I know there's lots of keyboard warriors and stuff out there, but we do really put thought into these products. We're not just here to like cash grab or
Sling and fluff.
like we don't even sell a Mark 7 rear windshield wiper delete kit. We don't even for that. So I believe that would be a cash grab. Yeah.
Well, and we've done this before. We've spent a lot of money on some products and found that we can't make it better. You know, like some of the 4.0 T intake stuff we were testing way back. You know, the RS7 was a really good option, and to make something better than that was pretty darn hard at the time.
Well, it turns out you just take the factory intake and you cut a hole.
That's what the factory did, and it worked great.
And it flows as much as having no intake.
Yep.
So, but there are lots of other companies that have sold lots of people fancy carbon fiber intakes
Performance reducing
that
intakes,
didn't flow any more than stock.
or less.
Yeah, or that. Well, actually, that was
The most
one of the aftermarket
everything we
companies.
tested was less than the RS7 option.
One of the aftermarket companies finally got busted for it. A big 3-letter name that you know of, and they ended up having a retrofit thing where they cut a hole in it, put a screen over it. So. Will you be offering Racingline's B9 oil catch can that was recently released? Yes.
We have their whole, or I think we're going to have their whole catalog.
We offer their whole catalog. We are behind on some of their new products for various reasons that you don't need to know about. But yes, we are partners with Racingline. We sell and support all their products, and we are releasing our own as well. So they beat us to the punch, which is cool. It's kind of like, you know, when your brother does something before you did, and maybe you wanted to beat him. But no, it's all good, and we do have our own kit coming as well. Any teasers around Mk8 tuning? Nate, you got anything you want to tease?
I mean, it's going well. More torques and more horsepowers are being made. Yeah. Not sure much more we want to go into it, but it's going well. It's proving really plenty capable, and we haven't had really that much issue with it. Just been good things for it.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
What the fuck is DAZA? I always hear about some kind of Yugoslavian station wagon. Close. That's really close. DAZA is DAZA is the engine code for the 8S TTRS and 8V.5 RS3. The new 8Y RS3 is DWNA.
DNWA.
It's DNWA? Are you sure?
Order.
No, I don't think so. NWA is with attitudes. No, it's the opposite.
DNW.
Go ahead and confirm. It is?
DNW.
Okay.
Cool.
All right.
Those cars have attitude too.
Yeah.
You see what
Nürburgrings with attitude? I don't know.
Clocks on its wheels. All right.
What's DWNA?
Not a thing.
Okay. So anyways, DAZA is the engine code for the 5-cylinder turbo and all those older generation cars. Not Yugoslavian, though. German.
It's interesting where some of that gets assembled. It might be not far from.
I noticed a thump as I launched my B9 RS5. I'm narrowing it down to either something from my transmission or my motor mounts. Do you have anything in the pipeline to combat that? I know you do with other cars. Yes, we have many things. We do have our density motor mounts for that application, which are stiffer, higher performance motor mounts. You can read about them on our website. We also offer various inserts to reduce engine movement and slop. Now, if something's just loose or broken, you're going to have to address that. You could certainly address it with one of our products or a replacement factory part. But yes, I don't know if a perfectly normal factory car just thumps and clunks when you launch it. So you may have a bad motor mount. We've been getting a lot of reports from customers who didn't know they had failed motor mounts and saw ours, went in there and looked, and they either were changing them to ours or found that their mount was actually failed already. So I think we're seeing these motor mount failures on these cars after even a few years, especially with heavier use. Our mounts are designed and engineered in such a way that they will not fail with that type of use. Okay. We got a few minutes left. That one question I answered. Will 0-4 engineer their own? No, the second to last. Will 0-4 engineer their own injector upgrade for the B9? I don't think so. So there are bigger factory injector options out there that we will use. The problem with going out and doing our own injector is if there's something from the factory that does the job, by far that's the best option.
Absolutely.
But to go have an injector made, say, by Bosch or Siemens or whoever, you're talking many six-figure projects.
There would be multiple commas going on there.
And then you might actually make it worse.
And the thing people often overlook is you can have the biggest injector you want. It's still limited by that, the high pressure pump. It's a fixed displacement amount of fuel that you're going to get no matter what is on the other end. You can run the efficiency up a little bit on it by running a little lower system pressure, and you're going to get a little more opening time out of the injectors and whatnot. They're not working as hard against that pressure differential, but it's not going to be this like seismic shift in the amount of fuel you're going to get just because it's got to go through this same pump. So you've got a couple of things you got to address first, and I don't think we're at a point right now where the available injectors are grossly outsized to the pump. I think we're at a good spot.
They're factory options, so they're designed for these motors, for the V of these motors.
Yeah, and the factory
characteristic is very.
They're really hard to make. The factory's got multiple revisions on every single
extremely
injector they've got out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact, I mean, there was no FSI in the 80s or 90s. It's because the technology wasn't there. And finally, in the early 2000s, well, I guess in the late 90s, in racing, Audi and Bosch started really.
The diesel stuff was the direct injection technology at the time.
But to do it for a gas motor is actually extremely ridiculously difficult. So the technology to make an injector that can even open and close that fast with those types of pressures, ECUs that can control incredibly additionally complex injection strategies.
And we're talking, that's down to both timing and just physically opening that injector and what's required, the voltage and current control that you need to reliably do that and not, burn up the injector, damage the driver. There's a lot that goes on to get these.
Yeah, it's not like nobody thought of it. It's just the technology just wasn't there. Yeah. So it's extremely difficult. The fact that these cars just started running truck, it's a fucking miracle. You have no idea how much going on there. So we actually attended some interesting seminars at SEMA where there was some OEM calibrators, talking about this, and we know a lot about this already. But it's just really interesting to hear.
Yeah, we're fortunate in that we get to the end result and we work from something that's already done, and then we get to polish it.
But we're further. Us and the rest of the tuning industry, we're standing on the shoulders of all the work that's done.
The OEM guys that have to model literally everything to get even a starting point, and then
from scratch,
and then dig into their. It's just the thousands of man hours that go into tuning. The simplest car on the road is. is substantial.
Do you guys sell stuff at the Fremont facility or only via the internet? So mostly since COVID started, we've just been shipping. However, if you'd like to pick something up here in Fremont, you can do it through our service department, ZTF Automotive. So you just need to go to ztfauto.com and contact them. If you'd like to purchase, like let's say you got a car in the air and it's Thursday afternoon, just give them a call. You can drive down here and pick it up over the parts counter there. We used to offer will call. It just, not a lot of people used it, and then like people would buy stuff, it would sit on will call for like months.
They just leave it here
And
forever,
it was
and
just
we gotta
like,
like
yeah.
store it and track it still.
And then of course we shut our facility down to the public during COVID, and we still really haven't reopened it, just for obvious reasons, because COVID's still raging, and not just COVID, but colds. I remember in like 2012. Half the company didn't show up because we had a flu outbreak, and like we were literally, there were like threads online of people bashing us on like why we weren't answering the phone or responding to emails. It's like, I'm sorry, like half the company's like literally in bed with a fever. So anyways, we're just trying to keep the facility safe and healthy, but we can do it through there. Says, thank you, everyone that makes this happen. Again, woof woof, and another great live chat. Well, meow meow right back at you, buddy. Thank you for being here and being such a great supporter. It's very loyal.
He woofs in almost every week.
Let's see. Do we need an upgraded fuel pump to run stage 1/2 E85 on B9 S4?
No, if you needed it, we would put it in the required hardware.
Everything's in the required, and the nomenclature we use is the plus. So if it's a 1 plus, it means you plus one of these in, right into the engine.
As we said before, if you want, you can run this with the stage 1, 2 files, no problem.
Yes.
But it is not required.
And I think we're all woofed out for today.
I think, geez, it is that time.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Thank you again for watching and joining us. I think we'll be back next Monday. I don't see any issues with that. So cheers. We'll see you next week.